Awesome. All right. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. I got a great guest on the show today. His name is Rob. Fun fact about Rob: Rob's a little OCD, or used to be. He was just telling me about how everything had to be color coordinated in the closet. The labels in the pantry have to be all facing the same way. And yeah, it's just a fun little fact. And it's not that way today, but it was at one point, and kind of let go of control a little bit after time, eh?
Letting go of control.
Awesome. So to get this off, you want to give a shout out to anybody before we get started?
My sponsor Terry, and hopefully I'll hear him on here as well. He's actually pretty interested. My sponsees Ethan, Nick, Nathan, and yeah, just kind of throw it out to those guys and Darcy. Honestly, I only kind of almost got my mom and my two sisters left. Everybody else is kind of passed in life, kind of a thing. But it's a loving family, and they've always been there for me through everything. So
Nice.
yeah.
Nice. Well, thanks, mom and sister, and thanks for being there. Terry, like I don't want to Henwood Terry, or
I
different Terry,
I don't like on panels and stuff.
plumber Terry.
No,
Oh, okay, different
no,
Terry then.
yeah,
I was gonna say we had Terry on a few weeks ago, right? So,
yeah.
so to get the episode started, same way I do every guest is, what's one thing you're grateful for today and why?
Well, today I actually just booked. If we're talking like right now, today, what brought almost tears to my eyes, I had to fight them back. Was my daughter, ever since she was like 12, 13 years old, wanted to go skydiving. Every year she talked about it. She turned 18 in May, and I just paid for it today, and we're going this Saturday. And why that chokes me up is she's a lot like me, and she's doing very well, but she can tend to struggle. A bit of depression gets in her head, and we have a lot of similarities that way. And I've never been skydiving, but from what I understand from anyone I've talked to that has gone skydiving, is when you come down to the ground and you touch down and stuff, the fucking glow and the way that you feel is like life is awesome. Like there's no doubt about it. Like you are on a cloud for like days, and you think back to that, and I just can't wait to look in her eyes and hold her, spin around in circles with a big hug, and just enjoy that experience with her.
That's awesome. That's on my bucket list, actually, is to go
Yeah.
skydiving. It's something I want to do and experience it for that reason.
Yeah.
That high, or that euphoria that you feel free
Yeah.
falling,
And
right?
just the gratefulness of life. Cause that, when you get down, it's like all of a sudden, from what I understand, it's just like colors are brighter for a bit, like just everything is just awesome. You're like, I fucking love life, you
I just
know?
survived.
Yeah, right.
Tell you a funny story. We had a guest on here a while ago, and last time she went skydiving 10 years ago, the chute didn't open.
Oh,
Yeah, scared the
shit.
shit out of her. Touchdown, never did it again.
So the emergency one went on. See,
Yeah.
you
I
should
shouldn't have
almost,
told you that, eh?
but you should almost be able to pay for that experience. That fucking, we're not going to make it. We made it experience.
Yeah.
An extra $100.
Just to scare the shit out of you.
Yeah.
Can you
right?
imagine?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, if you're there, give the guy a tip for the guy beside you.
Right. Yeah, totally.
That's funny. I seen a roller coaster video one time where the guy's like, there was a gag where he all of a sudden he pulls like a bolt from off the floor, and he's like, this just came out of your seat.
Yeah.
Scared the shit out of the guy next door.
Exhibition rides, man. The zipper. My dad did that to me when I was a little kid. I was probably like, I don't know, just tall enough to be on the ride. We're at the top. They're loading everybody in there. So we're swinging back and forth at the top. And all of a sudden he starts pointing at shit. And he's like, oh. And I'm like, what? And he's like, the cage is loose. They didn't latch it up, and there's bolts missing and stuff. He's like, this isn't going to go good. And he just had me like bawling at the top of the fucking ride, freaking out. And of course, as soon as it starts, it spins and goes face first towards the ground and then spins around. It was like the worst experience of my life. Like I was scared shitless.
Yeah. You do roller coasters today?
I didn't forever, but my daughter Sienna, that's like me, loves them.
That's cool.
So when we were in Disneyland, and she was only 8, I don't even know if she was supposed to be on this ride. It was California Scream, but thought we were in line for a different roller coaster. But the lines are so massive out there, the one we lined up for and the one we ended up on. And we ended up inside, and it was like a straight, almost like, just, I don't know how long it was, but a straight shot and then straight up in the air. And the guy just yells, in 3, 2, 1, everybody scream. And we took off like a slingshot. And I look at her, I'm like, oh shit. And she was holding on for dear life. She was freaking the fuck out and everything. I'm like, we got this and everything. And we're like going mock chicken. And then when we finally, like, the ride ended, at, I think she was like 8 years old or something like that. She dropped to her knees and kissed the ground.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I was
Must have
like,
been a good one.
yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You want to tell us about your childhood? What growing up was like?
Yeah. My parents were very, very loving parents. I had two sisters, have two sisters, and but it's kind of like, it's a weird story for me because although that my parents had a lot of love for me and I knew that they loved me to pieces. Um, my sisters are 11 months apart, and my parents only wanted three kids. My mom had a boy, and he ended up being like stillborn. And so they had the two girls, and then they tried again, and they had me. So my dad was so grateful he got his boy, right? And we didn't have really money, but we had, of course, food in the fridge. My dad would max out credit cards for sports and stuff. It was kind of stressful. I didn't realize money was so tight, but if I heard them ever fight, it was about money. And it was like, don't answer the phone. And it was because it was a creditor or something, kind of a scenario. And my sisters being 11 months apart, and my dad started getting into coaching. So he thought it'd be easier for my mom, because my mom worked a night shift and a day shift, like in a sense that we were the day shift. So she'd work
Oh,
all night at the hospital. She would get us off to school. My dad would go to work. She would have a nap. She'd wake up. She'd make lunch for us. She'd have a nap. We'd come home. She'd be with us until my dad got home, and then she would go to work. And she did that for years. And so to lighten the load, my dad took my sisters and he coached their soccer indoor and outdoor. He coached their ball. He coached their ringette. And the ringette was what their passion was about. So he started coaching them at like 5. And every team that he coached them at as they got older, he took over that next team. And it got to the point that other coaches were handing over the whistle to him because, he was an amazing coach. And but what happened there is that put me in a situation that I was the kid getting picked up for football, soccer, hockey, lacrosse, wrestling, and as far as tournaments and stuff, going with other people's parents, riding my
mhm,
bike to games, he wasn't there, right? And so what hurt about that is, like, knowing how bad he wanted a son, and I'm here,
yeah,
but I don't get time with him, and he's always with my sisters. So it was like I started lashing out and stuff, at a young age, and stealing, vandalism, sneaking out. And looking back, of course, it was all cry for attention, because at the end of the day, any attention was attention, didn't matter if it was bad or good. And I even asked my mom, after my dad passed, I have this resentment, because when I did my steps, he was in my resentments, but I didn't want to hold on to it if it was just me being a kid thinking he wasn't there as much, because sometimes maybe that he was there and I blocked it out, right?
mhm,
And she said, you know what, like, I'd love to say that he was, but he wasn't there, and I always told him he needs to spend more time with you and stuff, and he wasn't there. um yeah. So loving parents, I was the kid that my mom always had notes written every morning, you can talk to us, have a good day, we love you, stuff like that, because I was just always out, doing bad shit all the time and getting into trouble, and I was lost,
yeah.
right? Yeah, I was lost
I
and
get it.
starved for love. And so I guess with that, as I got into the program and stuff, and you start peeling away the layers, self-worth to me was huge. I had none, and I had no self-love, right? And I feel like that kind of started off probably, from childhood and stuff, even though I know I was loved, it was a weird conflict,
Yeah,
right? Where he wasn't there. So it's just very confusing,
yeah,
right?
that makes sense. I
Yeah.
get it. I totally get that.
Yeah.
How old were you when you first got introduced to drugs or drinking? Took your first drink?
So drinking probably was first. I was actually kind of a follower. I was never a leader. So peer pressure was never a factor for me. Drinking probably started at 13, in high school, kind of like being a frosh and stuff like that, and drinking in the park and stuff. But of course, it was always to excess. It was like puking in the bushes, keep drinking, pass out, being found in snowbanks by other people's parents and stuff like that, being brought home. So it was always rate extreme. And I was kind of a wanderer in school. Like I was friends with everybody, from like jocks to nerds. Every label I was friends with. because I don't prejudge people, right? Like I get along with pretty much everybody, but it got to the point that I wasn't getting invited to any of the parties and stuff because I didn't know how to drink how they were drinking, which was hanging out, drinking, having fun, socializing. I would drink to excess. I would get extremely obnoxious and loud. And it was just, obviously at some point they decided don't invite Rob to the parties. Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so yeah, it started at about 13. As far as drugs go, I actually made the conscious decision that I decided I think I want to try drugs. And I remember I was like in grade 11. I repeated grade 9, so I would have been 17. And it's funny, I don't know if anyone ever, and like, I don't know, I'll throw this out there anyways. I don't care. But Putnam's and Prairie Emporium, it's a show that was on in Regina and like Saskatchewan. It was like a kid show after school. And there was a kid in this show, and it was like a storekeeper and the boy, and he was only young, like probably like 10 in the show kind of a thing. But he went to my high school, and because he was in the show, he had a lot of money. And he came up to me randomly one day and he's like, "Hey, man, do you get high?" I'm like, "No, but I've been thinking about trying it." And he's like, "Well, come with me." So we go into the parking lot and he just starts trying to find a vehicle that's open. I'm like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Just find an open door." So it was this random station wagon, which I found out later on who it belonged to. Is kind of funny. And we just hid in the back seat and we just hotboxed it with some hash. Got super high, went back to class. It was like biology class. We were watching some video, like nature show with some animals and fucking birds and flowers and shit. And I'm just staring at it. And he's like, "Do you feel anything?" I'm like, "This is a fucking awesome show." And he's like, "Yeah, you're high." Right. And that was like my introduction, to drugs kind of a thing.
After that, like you said, 17 there. Which direction did you feel like going in after? Was it more the drinking or was it the drugging?
Um, the drinking, I was a pussy for hangovers. I kept drinking. Like I
Yeah.
didn't stop drinking. But I enjoyed, the drugs. And the thing about it is, like I say, I started when I was 17. And when I was just over 18, that's when my sister got hit by a drunk driver. Right. So they were fun for about 3/4 of a year, kind of a thing. It was just doing whatever. And I had my childhood problems, whatever, but like, I was always very talkative, the class clown, very open with people and stuff like that. And it was a really eerie thing with her accident because I remember being in the condo we lived in. We had to move out of the south end because we lost our house when my parents went bankrupt. So we moved into this small condo, and the phone rang at about 3 o'clock in the morning. And of course, I had no idea who was on the phone, but I ran downstairs and started my motorcycle. And I came back in, went to my parents' room, and I said, "What happened?" They said, "Jody's been in an accident." "Where is she?" "She's at the hospital." Um, Told me which hospital it was. I got on my bike. I raced there as fast as I could. I parked my bike at the front door, like the sensor of my bike opened the doors. That's how close I parked my bike to the door. I got off my bike. I went inside. I didn't actually leave the hospital for 7 months.
Mhm.
I ate there. I slept there. I lived there. My parents brought a motorhome to the parking lot. They lived in the parking lot. We were there the whole fucking time. And they finally, after 7 months, she started coming out of the coma. She was in a coma for 9 months, deep level coma for 7 months. And in 2 months, she was slowly started coming out of it. He said, "You got to get out of here. Like, you got to get out of here." Right. And I remember walking through the door of the hospital, and it was her boyfriend. But when she was in the accident, he took me to Humpty's for breakfast. And when I walked outside, it was like I'd never been outside before. It was a new experience. Like my eyes, the brightness of the sun, just everything about it, looking around felt so weird and eerie to me. It was completely a new experience. And I'll never forget that feeling. And so as she started coming to the coma and stuff, it's kind of like when something like that happens to a family member, you can go one of two ways. Either, you get straight and narrow, you don't do any, don't do drugs, don't drink and drive. That's what did it to her. Or you go right the fuck downhill.
Yep.
And I chose, to bury myself, right? I actually got a DUI even after that. Um, I drank nonstop, and drugs at that point became what I did so I didn't have to deal with feelings, because I never really learned how to deal with feelings to begin with. So that's just how I buried them. And I that started everything right into my 40s. So basically my whole adult life, not knowing how to deal with anything. I stunted that growth as a kid, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally understand that. And I got clean when I was 21, but when I got clean, well, I had a relapse in there, but when I first got clean, like, yeah, I was 12 years old pretty much. Like, I had no coping skills, had no idea how to live, had no idea about feelings. I'll tell you a funny story is that feeling face chart
Yeah.
that sat on my fridge for a year. And I actually had to go over and like identify and constantly like figure out what the hell I'm feeling because I had no idea. I had like three emotions when I came in.
Yeah.
And then
Anger, anger, and anger.
angry. Yeah, mate, I don't even think I was sad. Probably just angry. Yeah, I was fucking bitter at the world actually.
Yeah.
When I think about it, like I hated people.
Yeah.
I didn't want anything to do with people. So fast forwarding here, what's your clean date today?
So it's April 1st, which I kind of like that date. I always wanted a cool, clean date, and I feel like April Fool's is cool. And it's April 1st, 2020.
Nice. So you just took 2 years, a little over 2 years.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
So from the time that you got out, not you got out of the hospital, but got out of the hospital, do you want to just kind of paint a picture of maybe progression or maybe where some of the bottoms took you before we get into clean time here?
Um, I mean, there's definitely a lot of bottoms. But to me, uh, the bottoms I didn't really see as bottoms, like, because I kind of welcomed them. I had, I guess, maybe what they call survivor's guilt in the sense that I wasn't in the vehicle, but I felt like I was a shitty person and a shitty kid. And I felt like that should have been me that it happened to. My sister was like teddy bear, right? She was the nicest person. Everybody loved her. I was a bully. I was an asshole. I was all these things. And, so that's kind of how I felt. And so, I just kept punishing myself. And one thing that really weighed on me was, if you ever said to anyone, and you hear this all the time, the people, if that happened to my sister, I'd fucking kill the guy. Right. Well, I planned it. I thought about it. I had some pretty good ideas and stuff like that. My mom overheard me talking with my dad about it, and she lost her fucking shit. Of course, I'm not losing you guys. We've already, lost Jody, not lost her, but,
Yeah.
and, think about people in your life and stuff. Like, don't be so fucking stupid, right? So hearing people say that they would do this, they would do that, it made me feel like, because I'm kind of the eye for the eye guy, that again, I was worthless because I didn't avenge that, right? I didn't do what I'm supposed to do,
Yeah.
right? And I actually reached out to the guy because I actually knew the person that did it indirectly. And the problem is he never accepted responsibility. He drove drunk, the level 4 investigation. He went through a red light with a 76 Lincoln at about 114 kilometers an hour in the city.
Oh,
My sister was in a Skoda, like a little Russian tin can, going through a green light. He hit on the passenger side. On the third spin with the centrifugal force, she went out the back window. The guy driving was the bouncer at the pub that she worked at. He's 6'6". It's a four door. He went out his window,
wow. Oh, wow.
and they found my sister about a good 8 houses away from the vehicle. Um, and the whole time, all he said was, "Well, it's her fault. She wasn't wearing a seatbelt." When the investigation showed, because he hit on her side and T-boned, had she been wearing it, she would have been crushed to death. The only thing that saved her in that situation was that she wasn't wearing it. So I reached out to him on Facebook. I created a fake account. I found him. And all I put is, "Have you accepted responsibility for your actions yet?" And this was quite a few years later. At this point, he has a daughter. He wrote me a book. I read it, and he showed remorse. He said he thinks about it all the time. He has a daughter. There's not a day goes by that he doesn't think about what he did. All this stuff, whatever. I wrote back one word: forgiven. Did I forgive him? No, I don't forgive him, but I had to forgive him. I had to find a way for myself,
Yeah.
right? So that I could move through that. But the shittiest thing about that is my mom and my dad looked at me, and I had tears in my eyes, and they're like, "What's going on? What's happening?" And I told them what I did and that I forgave him. And they both looked at me with disgust. How the fuck could you forgive somebody like that ripped our family apart and did that? So I had a moment where weight was lifted off my shoulders, and I was going to try to move through this. to all of a sudden I'm a fucking even worse piece of shit
Mm.
because, now my parents are upset with me because, I've said that I've forgiven this guy,
Yeah.
so
But in hindsight, you have to, right? Like to
yeah,
carry that, and well, it's a fucking weight either way, right? Like, yeah, they had that weight of revenge, right? Or you have to
yeah,
carry that weight, which sucks either way. So,
yeah,
sorry, you had to go through that one. That sucks.
yeah.
Um, what was life looking like before you got clean here? Like, where were you? Where were you at in life?
Um, I was functioning, right? Like I was a functioning addict. And I know we touched base a little bit about that before. Like, I mean, I tried for the most part all the drugs, stuff like that. We joked because I said like my dad was in sales and the hard drugs, you know, I look for bang for your buck and they're not a good deal, right? You spend a lot of money, you don't get much out of them. And so I was more into like the mushrooms and acid, stuff like that. But I'd dabble in the hard drugs and stuff. I just, for simple reasons of money and stuff, I would never get into them. Weed became, my DOC and stuff like that, and it's an easy one to function on. Like especially if you're high every day, all day, it's what you do. So basically, I never stopped smoking it when I was 17, and I just kept smoking it more. So whether I was working, I got my class one driver's license when I was high, I got my motorcycle license when I was high, my heavy equipment operating tickets all in school when I was high. The girl's mom, I met their parents for the first time high, and they knew me high the whole time. If I was straight at one point, they probably would have thought I was high because they only
Yeah,
they only knew me as high,
I get what
right?
you're saying. Yeah.
Um, but again, I paid all my bills, I had a high credit score, good paying job, so I didn't experience the stuff about losing things from my addiction because that was never an issue. Um, so from what I thought, life was good. I thought life was good, and I always said like, I'll quit when I'm ready, but right now I don't want to, right? Not knowing at all that I was kind of, I look it back at it now where I'm at today, and I look back at where I was there, and I was just kind of on pause. My whole life I was on pause because I didn't know how to feel. I didn't know how to deal with things and stuff. So emotionally, it was like someone took the remote, pressed pause on life, and I was just going through it,
Mm-hmm.
but I wasn't a part of it really.
Yep.
I was always checked out, whether it was, taking the kids somewhere and whatever, and always, having to bring something with me. And before we went into the movies, dad had to get something out of the car. Sometimes halfway through the movie, dad had to go back to the car. Like just, it was just always, it was
Yeah.
a constant, right? So I was never in the moment with anything.
Makes sense. You're always
Yeah.
distracted. It's almost like smoking cigarettes, right? It's like,
That's
how
what
do
my
you
next set
plan
of
it the
steps
next
is
one?
going to be on.
That's
Yeah.
on my thing too, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I totally understand that, and like just pre-planning and things like that.
Yeah.
Did you ever try quitting before you clean date?
Yeah. Lots. So probably I was introduced to NA through, a friend of mine, and that was back around 2012 when he decided that he wanted to get clean. And I'd go to meetings with him. This is in Regina. We'd be driving to meetings. I'd be smoking a joint, on the way to the meeting. As soon as the meeting was over, I'd be smoking a joint in the parking lot of the church because I was going there to support him. I didn't have a problem, right? And so I thought, and yeah, so I mean, then when I finally got to the point that I wanted to quit, it was little things, right? It was like I'd get in an argument with the girl's mom, and I'd be like, I just have to go to the garage, right? Table this. I'd go get to the garage, I'd get high, I'd think about what the scenario was, I'd come back, we'd have a talk, and I'd work it out. And I thought that was good. Like, you need a break, and figured it out, but we always talked it out, right? And one day she said, like, I just wish for once you could just have a conversation with me about something, not having to go get high to do it, right? So it was everything. You're driving home from work, and something pisses you off, I got to get high. The
Mhm.
sun's out, I got to get high. Like, so it didn't matter. So I tried to quit many times, and I even gave her the dope and said, like, hide it from me, right? I won't smoke it during work, I'll just smoke it after work, and all of those different things people try and stuff. She wouldn't be home, I'd call her up, where is it? And she wouldn't tell me. And it's just, for fucking sakes, it's weed. And I'd rip the house apart looking for it until I found it.
Yep.
And I'd always find it, right? And or I'd just go get more, right? And that's kind of when I realized that I have a problem, like, because now I realize I can't stop. Like, it's controlling me,
Yep.
right?
What was the deciding factor for you to get into recovery this time, or what was different? Let's
What was different is me doing it for me, you know, before I tried to do it for my kids. Just super quick about that is, I think what brought me into the rooms is one time my daughter, she was only about 5 or something, and I said I'd play go fish with her. Gave her the deck of cards, told her to shuffle them up on the floor. I went to the garage because, of course, I had to go to the garage. Something was turned on. I had to turn it off. And I rolled a joint and I was smoking, and a buddy called. And I ended up on the phone for about 40 minutes. Rolled another joint, another buddy called, and talked to him for a bit. I go inside. My daughter's still sitting on the floor, messing up the cards, waiting for me, not realizing probably how long I'm taking, whatever. And I just felt so fucking disgusted and low with myself and kind of choked up. And I was like, wow, like looking at this innocent kid waiting for her dad to play go fish. And that's what I did. Right.
Mhm.
But that didn't work. Right. You can't get clean for other people, even if it's your kids. I mean, some people can. Right. And for sure. But, I was doing it for the wrong reasons because I still didn't really, I knew I had a problem, but it was like I kept justifying and thinking I could manage it. Right. So what was different this time was, you know, um, realizing I had no self worth, realizing I had no self respect, realizing I had no self love. And part of that is, I was in a relationship and I was unfaithful to most people that I was with. And, it was just looking for somebody to value me, to give me worth. I wasn't doing it just because I was a horn dog and I just wanted to go be with someone. I wanted to feel connection. I wanted to feel love. And that misguided thought that, sexual gratification is love, right? Somebody must want me. And the girl I was with at the time, I never, and I'm proud to say I was never unfaithful to her, but every time we broke up, and we were together 5 years and we broke up a lot, I would go be with a lot of people. Like I could not be with people. And basically that cycle had to end because I finally realized, with the new sponsor and kind of getting into it and stuff, that I had no self worth, and I knew I had no self love, but I thought I had worth because
Mhm.
I didn't really understand what that meant. But I realized I had no self worth, respect, or love for myself. Right. And that was my focus. I knew that I could get over the using,
Mhm.
you know, it was learning how to love myself, which is the changing factor for me. And I think for a lot of people is that worth and love and knowing that you're worth it, and growing from there, kind of a thing.
100%. And I
Yeah.
also think healthy boundaries too, when you're able to set that first boundary, all of a sudden, when I hear talk about setting a boundary, it's, you just all of a sudden, it's a leap in your recovery or a leap towards the right direction. And it shows self love, right? When you're able to
Yeah.
set that first one, right?
Yeah.
Um, you mentioned the 12 steps. Did you go through the 12 steps, 12-step fellowship to get clean or?
Yeah. So I had a sponsor in about 2000, and I'm thinking around 15ish or so. Awesome guy, went through the steps with him. I learned a lot about myself. Um, but then I wasn't connected. Like I didn't do any suggestions, right? Like at that point, I still felt like a burden to people. So I didn't reach out. You want to dump all your shit on me, I'll take that all day long. I was always that person growing up as a kid. My parents were those people. Everyone in the family that had problems came to my parents. All my friends came to me. Awesome at giving advice, not good at taking it, right? And not feeling, and but also feeling like I'm a burden to put it on somebody. So I never reached out to people and I never made any connections and stuff. I just kind of showed up for the meetings, right when they start, and I would leave as soon as they're over. Um, I did do the steps, but that's about the extent of, the suggestions that I did, and went to meetings, but I didn't do the rest of it. And I heard a good analogy from a buddy of mine in the program, very simple. And he's like baking a cake. There's ingredients. Of course, the ingredients are the suggestions.
Mhm.
And at the end of the day, if you miss some of the ingredients, your cake's not going to rise. It's not going to bake properly, right? You need all of the ingredients in order for it to work.
And in the
And
right order too.
that's right.
They're numbered directions on like
Yeah.
there's a reason why all the directions are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you can't mix them backwards or things like that. Same result just doesn't work, right?
Yeah, 100%. So when I came in this time, I didn't look at the suggestions anymore. Suggestions. I do realize they're suggestions because whether you're an addict or not, nobody likes to be told what to do. And but I look at suggestions today as commandments. Those are absolutes. If I don't do the suggestions, it won't work for me. I have to do those.
Yeah.
Right.
I mentioned that, like, if I ever get asked to share to the newcomer, in a meeting, they say suggestion, but I'm like, you want to fucking live or you want to do it? Like, they're not really suggestions. Like,
Yeah.
I would say 95% of people have to follow those to reap the rewards of getting clean or stay clean,
Yeah.
right? So, as much as their
Yeah.
suggestions, do it. you know,
Yeah. I did have 3 years, um, like from any drugs, but I still drank. Um, and I had a really hard time with that. And I remember still going to meetings, but I wasn't drinking at all to excess anymore. Like I did all that when I was younger and stuff. When I got older, it was like I enjoyed having a Caesar at the keg with a steak. I'd walk away from half a Caesar. I didn't give a shit. I just liked the taste of a Caesar. I'd have like a rum and coke by the fire and stuff. But I wasn't getting rowdy. It was just something, whatever. It was that odd thing, right? Um, and of course the people that I talked to that had been around a long time, they're like, well, you can't really rewrite the program. I mean, alcohol's a drug, period. And I fought it all the time. I'm like, but I don't do anything bad, and it's not a gateway for me anymore. Like, I don't drink and get a buzz and be like, oh, I want drugs. Like that was never a thought to me. um, but the thing about it, again, with not doing all of the suggestions, is I was like that dry drunk or whatever the drug term is for that.
yeah.
It's like for 3 years, I was still an asshole. I was still irritable. I was still angry. I still lashed out. I still had really bad characteristics, defects and stuff. And I just didn't use dope,
Hmm.
right? But then again, going back into the program and stuff like that and jumping 100% in, I was able to get rid of all those. Like, I mean, of course, there's still the ones that are there, but the major shitty ones,
Yeah.
like, those aren't a part of my life anymore, you
Nice.
know?
I'm sure the kids are happy about that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is like, I pride myself that in the last 2.5 years, I haven't told a lie. Like, I haven't lied about shit.
Nice.
And I mean, the truth hurts some people and stuff. And I got to learn how to, I guess, in a way, be nicer with the truth and not just be so blunt about my truth, because I'm proud to be honest, but I got to find a way to be, a little more, depending on who it is and stuff, a little careful with my words, right? But I know today, if I told a lie today, that would fucking eat at me. I don't know how I would sleep. And the next time an opportunity presented itself where I could lie, getting away with it, I might do it.
Hmm.
And if I did it, now there's my slope. And
Yeah.
where's it going to take me? And it turns my stomach to even think about it. Like, I am so proud that I haven't lied,
Nice.
you know?
Nice. And then made me think of a couple sayings is if you tell the truth, you never have to remember anything,
Yeah.
and a clean conscience makes for the softest pillow,
Yeah. And
and also,
secrets keep you sick, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And you can tell anybody anything. It just depends how you tell them, right? So,
Yeah.
sometimes I, when I have to tell something that I don't want to tell, I'm usually like, honestly, and I wait for them to kind of like process or wait, and then I kind of deliver the shitty news or what I have to say that I don't really want to say. Um,
Yeah.
what was not what was different? How was I gonna say this? What was your first year like? And did you set any goals that first year?
My ultimate goal, like I mentioned, was self-love, right? So I really worked on that hard. I did steps, I went to meetings, I did everything I was supposed to. I reached out, I talked about my feelings, I made phone calls and stuff. I did everything I was supposed to do. Um, and that was my goal, right? And I remember sharing at my first birthday about the like no self-love and stuff. And I said, on my 1 year, I said, I can't honestly tell you today that I love myself, but I like myself. And for me, that's huge. And and the other thing about that first year was I look at it almost like an apprenticeship in the trades. That first year was kind of getting all the tools in my toolbox, but I didn't really know how to use them, right? So people were giving me tools left, right, and center. They were trying to teach me how to use them and stuff like that. But from my first year to the second year is how I actually learned how to use the tools and apply them in my life. And that was huge. And when I took my second year, I actually stood there and I reiterated about not having self love at my first year, liking myself. And today I love myself. Like, I have
Nice.
self love. Like, I could truly say, I love who I am today. I'm grateful for who I am today.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And yeah, congrats on your 2 years. Like I found 2 years was the hardest one to get. And just to reiterate what you said was that first year goes by so quick and you learn all that tools. And then the second year is when life starts to happen. You actually have to use all that shit you learned the first year. and apply it to your life to get to that second year, you know. And
Yeah.
yeah, second year cake for me was probably the hardest one to get. And now you have everything. You can stay sober as long as you want to, as long as you
Yeah.
continue doing the things that you're doing today, right?
Yeah. Like when my dad passed, like I had, it was during that 3 years of clean time, where I wasn't touching drugs. And when he passed, he had cancer, and he had whatever the pills are that they give you for pain, like the synthetic heroin ones or whatever. And I found them, and there's about 60 of them in this jar, like this little pill bottle. And I took them all in 3 days. Throughout the days, I was taking them, little handfuls at a time, 5 pills, 5 pills, 5 pills, whatever. And I don't have very many regrets because I believe you learn,
Mm-hmm.
from your mistakes and what happens in life. But looking back, that's one of them, because while everybody else was mourning and going through their feelings and dealing with shit, and I was on the couch for 3 days and I was a zombie and I didn't feel a fucking thing, right? And so I wasn't there for my mom, I wasn't there for anybody, and I wasn't there for myself. Um, you know, my mom's older, of course, she's in her 70s, and I do know 100% today that no matter what happens in my life today, I can deal with it. And I would never say I look forward to that opportunity because it will come or whatever, but like I welcome the fact that I know, and I'm grateful that I can go through the feelings. Because one thing that I learned is it's okay to have your feelings and stuff like that. Just don't sit in them, acknowledge them. They're there, feel them, move through them. Um, and things get better, right? But because of course, I sit in them a lot, in the past and stuff, and I'll sit in something for fucking days, and one little thing could happen and I'll let it ruin like days, right? But now I have the ability to, almost like a third person, pull myself away from myself, acknowledge the thought, look at the thought, look at the feeling and stuff, appreciate that I'm having the feeling, and then work through it and move past it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one of the greatest gifts, and that's something that I share about, or when we talk about gratitude, is being able to separate logic from feelings. You know, and most of the time I can, and to be able to step out of self and kind of look at the bigger picture, look at it from different angles, and not be run by feelings, right? And the other thing I had to learn when I first got sober was feelings can't kill me.
Yeah.
Like my emotions can't kill me. The drugs will, but my
Yeah.
feelings aren't, no matter how shitty they are.
Well, and suppressing them maybe won't put you in the grave, but it kills your spirit, it kills your soul. And like again, you're just walking endlessly on the earth, and you're just a fucking zombie,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't have to pay for those ups and downs today.
No. Yeah.
How'd you deal with the shitty feelings? What do you have to do to get through those?
Like today, how do I get through them? Or
Or even then, like,
I
yeah,
mean, then of course it was just
same.
I masked him because I just got high all the time,
Oh,
right?
no, but I
So
mean in recovery. Sorry.
oh yeah, in
Yeah. How
recovery.
do you get through your feelings today, or the shitty ones? Like, what are the
um
tools you've learned?
I if I can't get through them on my own, which I'm pretty good with in a positive way, I definitely reach out, right? And I look for perspectives on things and stuff. Because sometimes if I can't make sense of why I'm feeling it, because today I understand why I'm feeling what I'm feeling. If someone pisses me off when I'm angry, I know why. If I'm hurt because of something, I know why, right? I can identify the action to the feeling. um, and But if for some reason I'm just feeling a certain way, and I do battle some depression and stuff, and there's times where I don't know why I'm feeling how I'm feeling. I just feel really low and I want to pull away, I want to isolate, and I don't want to talk to anybody. And those are the scary times, because when I start isolating like that, I don't know where I'll end up, right? And it's really fucked up because my daughter feels the same. Like I ask her all the time, and she's getting better and stuff like that, because we do talk, and I'm so open and honest with my kids. And I'll say like, what's going on? Talk to me. I don't know. It's always I don't know. And a parent that doesn't understand that will just think you're hiding something, but sometimes you just don't know.
Mhm.
You just feel a certain way and you can't pinpoint it. There's nothing specific that happened. You don't know why you feel that way. You're just that way right now. And that's when I reach out,
Yeah.
right? And that's when I talk to people and just let them know where I'm at, right? And of course, you get all the fucking sayings. Well, write a gratitude list, all these fucking things, right? And I mean, they work, right?
They do
I
work, right?
joke,
Yeah.
but I've always heard like you can't throw a pity party while you're writing a gratitude list, you know?
So yeah.
Yeah.
So
You
you
could be
can't
in and out while you're thinking of the next fucking gratitude.
It's true,
But
right? It's true. Yeah, it works, right? They say because it works, right? But
yeah,
at the same time, sometimes you just gotta feel your fucking feelings,
you
right?
do
Like,
100%,
yeah,
right?
and just go through it, right? Like, there's
Yeah.
time. It's okay to not be okay sometimes, right? It's just when you start to dwell in it or sit in it, then that red flag needs to go off and be like, I gotta do something different.
Yeah.
What do you do for fun in recovery?
Oh man, so much. I'm very grateful for Chad in recovery. And he started a page on Facebook, Living Clean Social Events. And I was so active in that and getting people joining and putting posts up. He's just like, dude, I'm gonna make you a fucking admin because you're texting me telling me like, hey, you haven't checked your email and I, you know, tried to add this person, but you got to approve them. So he kind of made me one of the admins so I could approve people and stuff. And so like we've organized, we've gone snowboarding, we go bowling, we go mini golfing. Honestly, I'm up for absolutely anything. Go run the stairs in the river valley. If it's activity and I'm available, I'm in,
Right.
right? So that was a big fear of mine, is not being able to do that shit because of course did everything using, riding a dirt bike, using, right? BMX, skateboard, didn't matter what I did, it was using. So I remember, sharing a while back, about, I don't know if anything will be fun anymore. I don't know if I'll be able to do this. Like, I don't find enjoyment, but I still hadn't even had the fog come out of my head. And, so of course, like I didn't even, hadn't even given it a chance yet. And then I remember, once things were fun for me and I was belly laughing and having a great time and really enjoying doing activities with people, hearing another guy share that exact same thing. And I talked to him after the meeting. I'm like, you know what, bud? Things get fun again.
Mm-hmm. They get
They
amazing.
really do. They get fucking fun,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, and you got to get uncomfortable to find that out, right?
Yeah.
Like, in that uncomfortableness is growth. Yeah, I love little sayings, right? Like my life is composed of all these one-liners, and that's how I kind of like
Yeah.
live my life by, right? And I haven't recited this one for a while, but fear is the edge of my comfort zone, and on the other side of it is growth.
Right.
So
Yeah.
once I step out of that comfort zone, fucking who knows what's possible?
That's
Like
right.
when I got so like I was 25 and I went skiing for the first time since I was a kid. And I thought I was going to enjoy it. While going up the chairlift, I was scared shitless and I had to pull the thing down. And like, I was terrified. And even coming down the hill, I'm like putting on the brakes the whole time because I didn't want to get hurt. But I thought
Yeah.
I was going to enjoy it. It's not, I don't mind once in a while, but like, it's not my thing like I used to. But
Yeah.
you have to experience it all or make new memories, new associations to kind of
Yeah.
experience life, right? Like, it's all
Yeah.
about making memories today.
And there's a lot of amazing people in the program, and that are active,
Mhm.
that like to do things. And I started doing some downhill mountain biking in the Twilliger dog park area. There's so many trails there, and some are pretty aggressive, and I've never done that before. But one of the friends that I hang out with, her friend that's not in recovery, but just lives a super amazing clean life, brought us there and stuff, showed us the trails, and now we try to go every Sunday. She's been on an amazing holiday for the last like month or whatever, up in like the Yukon or some fucking place. But when she gets back, we're back to Sundays. That's what we do. Is Sundays are a mountain biking day. And again, snowboarding. If it wasn't for recovery, I wanted to do it, but never did it. And then it got to the point that other people were doing it. Went to a pawn shop, bought a board, bought some new boots, got some gear. Now, I try to go at least 3 times a season, right? It's not a lot,
Yeah,
but it's fun and we have a blast, right?
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What else do I want to ask you here? Do you have any mentors in your life or any role models, and in what areas?
My life really does revolve around NA. Like, I come from a family, where everybody for the most part used. My grandma was a heavy drinker. My uncle, was drinking himself to death. His liver was shut down. He finally died in a fire because he was passed out and burnt the place down. My cousin Rhonda, unfortunately, ended up having brain surgery and liver surgery and all these different things and stuff from alcoholism. It finally killed her. So that's what I grew up around. Was that's fun, right? That's what you do, and
Mhm.
there's not much to look up to there, right? And so I'd say my life does revolve around the people I've met in NA, and I have put myself as close to the center as I can, and met a lot of great people. So definitely, my sponsor Terry, Bruce, that isn't with us anymore. There were some things that he had said to me, helping me out with the steps, that have really stuck with me. Jim, there's Randy, Vic, like there's
Oh
so
yeah.
many awesome guys, man, that are in the program. James, like so many awesome guys. And I know there's so many more, right? But like those are just a few.
Mhm.
Um, and I look up to them, right? I want what they have still, right? I'm only
That's
two
awesome.
years, man. I'm a fucking baby,
And
right?
it's funny because it's true. No,
It
I'm
is.
just
It,
kidding.
it's
It is
so
like
true.
so much more to be revealed, like
Yes. Yeah.
so much more. The
Yeah.
older you get, the less you know.
Yeah.
you
I'll
know.
tell you this. I was going to take a step back from NA recently. Um, just because nothing to do with NA. Love NA. Love the people in it, stuff I got in my head. And I've chaired a meeting, pretty much for like a year and a bit, until finally we had some home group members that I could, get to help with the chairing and stuff. And if I never did that, I'd have chaired it every day, every Sunday forever. I wouldn't have cared. I
Mhm.
enjoy it, right? That's my service. That's my giving back. But also I want to share that with people because that's what we do, right?
Mhm.
But I got a hold of the young fella that is actually one of my sponsees, and I said, "Hey, do you mind chairing till the end of July, and then we'll look at getting someone else." What I was setting up is the fact that I didn't have to be there, and I was already pulling back. And there's not too many experiences I've had with a higher power, because my higher power isn't a spiritual thing. I'm not a religious person. I haven't found that kind of a connection. For a long time, my higher power has been the rooms. I can't put one person because we're fallible and people fuck up.
Mhm.
But collectively as a group, we're powerful, right? That whole what I can't do alone, we can do together. That's my higher power, is the group, right? But I had this higher power moment, man. And the night that I decided that I made these steps, and even my sponsor Terry was taking 10 years, I texted him that night too, said, "Hey man, some things came up. I'm not going to be able to make it. I'm sorry. I wish you the best, blah, blah, blah." He's like, "No problem, champ." Reached out to another friend of recovery that I promised on July 1st I'd help her move. I said, "Hey, I'm not going to be able to help you move. Some things came up. I'm sorry." "Yeah, no problem. Thanks for letting me know ahead of time. I'll line some people up." The next day I go to work and I get a call from a friend of mine and the girl's mom. She went to high school with the girl's mom. She was in our wedding party. And she starts telling me about her friend Mel, who I also know, who's friends with my girl's mom ever since high school. Says her son isn't doing well. He's really struggling. She's afraid he's going to die. He's into some hard drugs. This is where he's at, blah, blah, blah. Mel wants to know, can she reach out to you? I said, absolutely, she can reach out to me. She calls me at work that day, explains the situation and stuff, asks if I'd take him to meetings. Just the night before, I'm like, I'm not going to meetings.
Yeah.
Without even thinking about it, I'm like, I will be there 100%. I fucking had tears in my eyes. I was choked up. And I was like, if that's a higher power, if that's not a higher power working, I don't know what the fuck is, because I was out.
Yeah.
And now I'm so in, because somebody needs me and I need it and I need him, because I need to know where I was and what's going on and stuff. And like that connection, talked to him on the phone, took him for supper to get to know him for a couple hours and stuff, kind of, talked about what this is about, take him, we committed to 3 meetings a week, got him a step book, got him a basic text, got some really solid members at one of the meetings to write their phone numbers in the basic text. And I challenge them and stuff. And with that, I'm starting to re-challenge myself, and I have this relit fire under me
That's
for the
awesome.
program, because I love the program.
Mhm.
Like that was such a fucking amazing experience, man, to have that happen at that moment.
Yeah.
You
What are
know,
the odds? Yeah, I don't believe in coincidences.
no,
Like,
Celestine prophecy, man.
yeah, yeah. Whenever
Follow the coincidences are there for a reason. You're on the right path.
yeah, when I'm like, I'll tell you one of my weirdest. Well, couple. February 19th, 2004, I had an accident. I got really severely hurt. That's when my addiction really took off. Two things I never wanted in any light in my life was any major facial scars or missing any teeth.
Yeah,
Well, I got this facial scar right here that you can't see, and then I lost my very back right molar. So what are the fucking odds? The two things I want, I got, never really have. February 19th, so my life changed
yeah,
after that, after the accident. February 19th, 2 years later to the day, I got into rehab, changed my life again. Yeah. Like, when you can say, what are the odds? Like, I just don't believe in coincidence. I've had too many close calls in life and everything where I'm like, what are the odds? I got to contribute to something that bigger and better than me.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, we know we could sit here and talk for hours sharing times that we should have died,
Oh,
all these different things and
yeah.
whatever.
Yep.
The list goes on and on and on.
Mhm.
Right. And yeah, like I'm here for a reason. Don't know what it is, but I know that if I'm going to fulfill whatever I'm supposed to be here for, I need to be the best me I can be,
Mhm.
and honestly, if I can just help a few people get to where I'm at today, that's fucking even good enough for me, man.
Yep.
You know?
You just got to be an example, right?
Yeah.
Like lead a positive example, right? Or, that not attention, like, what's the right word? I don't even know what the right word is. I am, but yeah, just be an example, right? That the
Yeah.
program works, or that
Yeah.
recovery is worth it, and life life can be amazing, right?
Yeah.
Um, if you have to think about one gift that you've been given, or well, actually, this one I like to ask: unexpected gifts that you got as a result of getting clean.
Um, Unexpected gifts. I mean, I don't know if this is along the right lines, but I never expected to ever love myself. I didn't, as much as I wanted it. It wasn't real to me. The hatred was so deep. Like to say like material things and all that. I had all that. Like I said, I was a functioning addict. Like it's the self love, the self worth, and the self respect. Those are massive gifts, and you know, just living by spiritual principles, man. Like just it's so fucking cliche and whatever, but it's the gift of recovery and doing the suggestions. The program is the gift. Without that, all these other things, I don't feel like they would have ever happened. I would have never ever been able to get where I'm at on my own. And it's simple because I didn't have the tools.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody taught me. I remember a psychologist when I was younger, telling me, because as I was punching fucking through walls and windows and breaking shit and just so destructive. And she's like, well, telling me and my mom, she's like, well, you should put him in boxing and get him a punching bag and stuff. And my mom thought that was a great idea. Like it's an energy release. And I look at that today and I'm like, maybe let's work on why am I punching shit?
That's
Like,
just a
sure,
band aid.
that's an energy release, but what's the point in teaching someone how to punch better and to release their anger that way? Like, that's not teaching them that not to punch people
Yeah.
or things, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's no learning there, right? There's no growth.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, yeah. Like in theory, it sounds good, right? But then you're missing the whole point. Like
yeah.
you're missing the whole point of like
And maybe
why.
psychology was different back then. I mean, we're talking 30 years ago. Like, people have come a long way, mental health and, of course,
Yeah.
the older generation and stuff like that. Like, you didn't talk about feelings as much, I mean, it just wasn't apparent. Like, I think the average person nowadays probably knows far more than a psychologist did fucking 30 years ago that's well educated.
Yeah.
It's just progression of life, right? The information's out there,
Yeah.
you
Makes
know?
sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense. What do I want to ask you here? I don't even know, to be honest with you. I had something and something reminded me of something, and I don't know.
Yeah.
um, what do I want to ask you? I don't have a fucking clue, to be honest with you. I honestly don't know. There was something, and then I totally drew a blank. Um, what are some goals you're working on today? Then, what's something you're working towards?
um, I've is commitment, and it's funny because that was the topic in the Living Clean book that we were reading last night at the meeting I was at. And when it comes to physical exercise, I don't like the gym. I fucking hate it. Like, I only exercise and work out because it keeps me active and allows me to do the things that are fun in life, not because I'm a gym guy.
Yeah.
And also, I promised myself my whole life I'd never be the sideline dad. I wouldn't sit in a chair and watch my kids do sports. I do sports with my kids,
Cool.
and I do, right. But now I'm trying to take it a little bit more serious, where like I'll get to a point where I'm in good shape, and but I'll lose it just as fast as I gain it, if not faster, when I stop. Right? It's just the way my body is. I don't hold on to progress. And I always have that thought: where would I be if I would have just made it a way of life? Nothing obsessive, but just a way of life. But didn't stop. So that's where I'm at today. Is just trying to be consistent, because I believe that the best all around program is mind, body, spirit. Right? You need all three, right? Because a healthy body produces the right chemicals and stuff to make you feel good. If you're spiritually connected and grounded and stuff, if your mind is solid, you're doing great.
Yeah.
right? So I think my goal is continue working the program, continue to educate myself and learn tools and how to apply them, continue to be spiritual and live a spiritual principles and do that next right thing, but also on the physical side to try to match that spiritual mental with some physical and become a well-rounded person.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Awesome. That's a great goal, actually.
Yeah.
Um, okay, I got one more for you. Structure. How important is it, or how important was it?
Structure is pretty important, but I can make structure out of no structure, like in the sense, like I've had 7 knee surgeries. So I tore my ACL twice. So there was a period of time that I was off work for 2 years. And everyone's like, man, I could not do that. How the fuck are you not going crazy? Well, because that I learned structure around that, right? I had a routine.
Yeah.
So structure is important, but it doesn't necessarily for me have to be, go to work, like I'm good with not working. If I won the lottery, man, fucking perfect. I'm not one of these people that needs to work for the rest of my life.
Yep.
My life would be fun and I would have structure to it, but it would be
Mhm.
fun. Everything would be structured, fun. Right. So yeah, structure is important. I find if I don't have things to do, whether it's work or activities and stuff like that, and I sit down and I'm not doing anything, then of course it's like I've learned to sit on my own. But if I'm not doing anything and I'm just sitting on my own, then I feel like I'll be in my head a little bit more and stuff like that. If I'm not being active, my body kind of goes to shit. That becomes a slippery slope because now I'm not able to do things as much. I'm in pain doing things. So structure is important.
Yeah.
One of the sponsors that I had, he always said, when you wake up in the morning, just make your bed. Only because that way, when you've woken up in the morning, you've done something, you've completed a task,
Mhm.
right? Do I make my bed every fucking morning? No. I try to,
I do.
but if I, what the funny thing is if I didn't make it in the morning, I will make it before I get in it.
There's nothing better than crawling into a
Right?
made bed.
Yeah.
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 But it
Fighting with
will
the
always be
sheets.
made before I get in. Yeah.
So I tell you, yeah, and it is all those little wins, right? Like that add up throughout the day, and also that accountability. Though when we say something, we gotta. If there's anybody we gotta be accountable to, it's ourselves, right? Like if I'm saying I'm
Yeah.
gonna make my bed that day, then I gotta fucking make my bed, right? And you start to feel good after being accountable, or you do all those things that you say you're gonna.
Yeah.
Um, did you ever journal? Did you ever have to journal?
Yeah. I burnt a few of them. I did most of my journaling in early recovery, when I was in a really bad place, and I would just randomly write down where I was at and stuff like that. I started to feel better, and I had good days and stuff. And part of me wishes that I wouldn't have spazzed out and fucking ripped the book up and burnt it, because it is it shows progression. And that's what I think about now, because it's like at times when things are a lot better and I'm doing a lot better, but I feel like things are shitty, all I'd have to do is flip back, X amount of dates, read how things when they actually were shitty, and realize how grateful I am for where I am today.
Yeah.
Right. I did buy at the Saskatoon convention the leather NA journal. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's pretty cool looking journal. And I procrastinated because my thing is when I started on that date, I want to write in it every day. I don't want to miss dates.
Yep.
And I'm a procrastinator with stuff like that. So it's sitting like right beside my bed, and I have yet to write in it. But I do have to make a decision at some point. When am I going to do this? Right. And the nice thing about a journal is I don't have expectations. Like I could write a sentence. I just want to write something. Right. But for some reason I haven't dove into that yet.
You just
So
gotta do it,
I've
right?
done it on and off, right? And I do think it's important, but it's just not something that I've committed to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I journal like when I get really squirrely.
Yeah.
Like when my fucking mind is going, or and I just can't think clearly, right? That's when I need to put pen to paper, right? And
Yeah.
I'll get the most benefit out of it. And sometimes I just journal for a couple days and then that's it, right? And in the garbage it goes.
Yeah.
Nobody
Yeah.
needs, and it doesn't even have to make sense, to be honest with you. Like some of my rings, I'm not writing to impress. I'm just writing so I don't go crazy,
Yeah.
and it just doesn't make sense. You can't read half of it, but it's just that flow to get it out of me, right?
Yeah.
So, what time have we got? I think that's pretty much it for us. Um, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Thank you for joining us. Do you want to take us home or leave something with the listeners, like your final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, this is a podcast on recovery. Honestly, don't write your own program. You know, the program's been there. It's not a wheel that needs to be remade. You know, it's a perfect program if you work it. You know, so that's my opinion, of course. You know, you learn to talk that way too and not tell people what to do and shit like that. But at the end of the day, if you want it, it's yours. And you know, if you do all of the suggestions religiously and stuff, and you die in and you're open and you're honest and you want change and you're willing for change, um, you can have it, right? Because life is better when you get past the addiction. And I mean, at the end of the day, the using is 1%,
Mhm.
right? Everything else about it is, I heard that, you know, the using wasn't the problem, it was the solution, because we didn't know what to do. So, with our feelings and our thoughts and what we were going through, so the drugs became the solution to hide that shit. You know, when you realize that and you start working through the nuts and bolts of everything that brought you to using, the obsession for using goes away and everything becomes great.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you for sharing your time. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll leave you the same way I leave you every episode, and that's make lots of memories, take lots of pics, and show the world you smile.
Fucking
Cheers.
rights.